What's up, everybody? It's Erica here with another Saturday podcast. I don't have Ian with me here this week, but I do have a very special guest. I have my sister Dyanna.
Hey, everybody.
And we are talking about 13 Reasons Why. It's a new show on Netflix, if you don't already know that. It is based on the book, also called 13 Reasons Why by Jay Asher. And it is a book that Dyanna and I both love. We've loved it for years. So we are going to talk about that today.
And also, if you haven't heard about it yet, where have you been?
Like living under a rock?
It's been one of the hottest Netflix original series in like a long time.
So, before we get started, I just gotta say, in case you're watching this and you haven't seen the show, spoiler alert. And I also gotta question your sanity of why are you watching this if you haven't watched the show or read the book. So it's on you if you get spoiled for you. So that's on you. All right. So first off, we're gonna start with our first impressions. So what did you think of the show? First when you heard about it and then when you saw it.
When I first heard about it, I was a little bit confused because it's such a heavy book where I was really wondering like how they were going to adapt the book to a TV show, especially because it's only one book. That's like going to be the end of it. But a show kind of implies that there might be more seasons. So I was kind of wondering that aspect of it. And then I also heard that Selena Gomez was a big part of it, that she was possibly going to be the main character. And I was a little bit hesitant about that too, just because we had already read the books and I knew Hannah and her character, and I wasn't quite sure how I felt about Selena Gomez as that character. But I was also pretty excited, more just kind of curious of how they were going to do that, like create the show based on the book.
Yeah, same. I think it was 3 or 4 years ago they first started talking about doing a 13 Reasons Why movie, and then that's when they were saying about Selena Gomez would be Hannah, and I was not excited about that because, I like Selena Gomez, she's okay, but she wasn't Hannah. So when I heard they were doing the show and that she was going to be the producer, I felt better about that.
Yeah, definitely when I heard that she was going to be the producer, I was very much okay with that because I knew that she does like have an invested interest in these kind of issues.
Yeah, and it's also a really, like, when I first heard that they were doing this, I was excited because, I love the book, but I was also hesitant because it's such a heavy topic. It's, depression, suicide, controversial, and them translating that onto the screen was going to be difficult because how much would they actually show?
And this is very much one person's perspective of it, so obviously there was going to be some kind of backlash, just like when the book first came out, so it was just interesting.
So before we start talking about the show in general, just really quickly, did you like the book or the show better?
I don't know if I can say I liked one of them better. They're just different, and I respect each of them like as an individual thing. Like the book was really good. It was one of those books like where you start reading it and it instantly like grabs your attention and you finish it in one night.
Yeah.
Type of deal. And the whole perspective of it, like of obviously Hannah like talking to the 13 Reasons through the tapes, but it was also through Clay's perspective, like him like dealing with all of that. First like just her suicide and then all the different stories in the tapes. And then the show, it was like, it just was so much more just because that's what a show is in a movie. Like when they do those kind of adaptations, you just get to see a lot more characters and like their stories, their backstories, and like the interactions between the characters that you don't see in a book because it's more singular.
Yeah, like I totally get that. It's really hard to compare them because they are so different. Like I loved, but about the book was that it flowed really nicely and it was fast paced and really emotional. Like I feel like in the book you get more of Clay's emotion, and
Definitely.
in the show they just go into everybody's backstories and they develop all of the characters in a way that you didn't in the book, which I appreciated. Like Tony, for example, in the show he had so much like dimension to him. Like they made him gay, which I thought was a really interesting choice.
Yeah.
So I do think the show does that really well. And yeah, I can't answer which I like better.
Because you like them both, I think
differently,
but equally.
Yeah.
But it's hard to compare them.
Yeah. And like I appreciate some of the changes that they made, but I can respect the changes being canon now because Jay Asher was involved in the whole process. So
yeah,
I'm assuming he approved all the changes.
Yeah, I read a part of an interview that where he wasn't upset about any of the changes that they made for the story because his main thing was that they got the message across. And I think that he felt comfortable about that, like you said, because he was one of the writers.
Yeah, all right. So let's briefly talk about all 13 reasons. So first, I'm going to go based on the movies list because it's a little bit different in the book, the list, like the order.
Mm-hmm, the character names.
Yeah. So first is Justin. He was Hannah's first kiss, and he is on the list because he let people believe that he did more with Hannah in the park than just kiss, and he didn't send out the photo of her, like her upskirt photo of her on the slide. He didn't send it, but he let his friends send it to people on the school. So it like establishes the foundation for Hannah's reputation right there in the beginning.
Absolutely. And then he didn't correct anybody either. He wanted everyone kind of to believe that he was like this big stud. He got the new girl, and that basically he was kind of like a player.
Yeah.
Which I don't really understand that in general with like guys, like why that's such like a big thing. But obviously it's very different. Like the age-old thing of how like when a guy sleeps with a girl, he's a player and like kind of like godlike, and then when a girl does, she's a slut.
Yeah, it's double standard.
Double standard for sure, and you definitely see that immediately, and like how that's like a big issue just like in general with guys and girls, but especially in high school.
Yeah, and like in the book, they kind of just leave it at that, where it's just that's who he is. He wants to be popular.
He's a jock
and the stud. But in the show, they go so much deeper into his character, like the whole thing with him being in a dysfunctional home. Mm-hmm. His mom, has
she's neglectful.
She doesn't pay attention to him.
She has an abusive boyfriend.
And like he relies on his friends to, even for sometimes a place to stay, because
food to eat, all that.
So it's like you kind of sympathize with him, but at the same time, it's like, no, you're still a douche. You shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
Like I get that your home life sucks, but you still are wrong to do that to Hannah.
That doesn't give you a reason to be a douche to other people.
Yeah. And then second is Jessica, who is Hannah's second friend, because Kat would be her first friend in her new school. And she is friends with Alex and Hannah, and they have their group, like little venting group at Monet's coffee shop. I didn't really explain it. Like I guess maybe I'm just not understanding it, but they were all friends together, and then Jessica and Alex decide to date, and they just ditch her.
Yeah, well, Jessica in general, her character in the book and in the show, you very much get the sense that she is one of those friends who you have that like witty banter with. She's fun to hang out with. She's pretty, she's popular, but there's not a whole lot of depth to their friendship. Like they do talk about like some of the things like in the show, her dad getting deployed overseas. Yeah, just like the whole drama with Hannah and Justin. So I mean, they do have like those little bits of conversations, but they're not really best friends. They're not close. Like they're their only friends.
Do you think Jessica's a bad friend?
Not so much as she's a bad friend, but just that their friendship wasn't that great, So when it came down to it, whether Jessica would choose Hannah, like her friend, and like their friendship that's between the three of them, or if she would choose a guy, you can kind of tell that she was just the kind of person, or like they also had a kind of friendship where it wasn't that strong, where she would choose a guy, just because that kind of connection, like to have a boyfriend, is a little bit like more intense, I guess.
Especially at that age.
Yeah, especially at that age. So, I think that was just kind of like her mindset, I guess.
She didn't realize what she was actually doing to Hannah.
Mm-hmm.
She was just like, oh, like, this guy, we're friends, and I like him, and he likes me, but oh wait, I have another attractive friend, so maybe we should stop hanging out together so that way I can be with my boyfriend, kind of thing.
Yeah, she definitely chose to be the kind of girl that, kind of forgets her friends, like when she has a guy. Like, not intentionally, not like maliciously, anyway, like at first, but she set her priorities in a way where she made her boyfriend first rather than keeping friendships and her boyfriend.
Yeah, which is really shitty because, I mean, she's also new to the school, so she knows what Hannah's going through, like feeling isolated, and that when they all came together, because all three of them are new, they had like this connection, the common bond of, they're new and they don't really know anybody, so they got to bond over that. And then just to, again, you said she didn't do it maliciously, But still, it's shitty that she just kind of just abandons her friend.
Yeah. And then also, let me just say really quick how it kind of bugged me, but it also, I don't know, kind of brought it into recent times with the whole Ollie Ollie Oxenfree in the book versus FML in the show. It kind of bugged me a little bit. I was kind of like, oh, is that what they're using instead of Ollie Ollie Oxenfree?
FML sounded awkward to me.
I think they both would have sounded equally awkward, but do kind of understand the choice to use FML, because the book was written
Like 10 years ago?
10 years ago, yeah. So, just like the slang was different. So they kind of, and it was supposed to take place present day, so they kind of needed to bring it back.
Like, make it more
believable
and relatable to the target audience, which is,
teens
young
right adults.
Now. Like, I mean, I understood what Ollie Ollie Oxenfree meant, but I guess teens, like, people born after the year 2000, because, 17-year-olds right now are, graduating high school, which makes me feel super old.
Dear God.
But, yeah, to appeal to that audience, which, I mean, I'm thinking that we're on the end of their target audience. I think we're, like, on the older side of it.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I get the change. I didn't really like it.
No.
Because it was, I don't know, there's just something about saying Ollie Ollie Oxenfree. It flows better.
And it's kind of one of those fun words to say, or not words. Phrases to say.
Anyways, back to Jessica. The other thing that she does, which we'll talk about it with the next person, is that she blames Hannah for the list, for Alex's list. Which is a nice segue to go into number 3, Alex, who, abandons the friendship along with Jessica when they start dating, and he he doesn't make the list. He adds Hannah and Jessica to the list, makes Hannah best ass in the class and makes Jessica the worst. So he uses Hannah to hurt Jessica.
Because Jessica didn't want to have sex with him, or she wasn't ready to. So
he's pissed off about that.
And he knew that Hannah would be the one person to really hurt Jessica. And he was already hurt by Jessica, so he wanted to, hurt her as much as he could.
And I think that he didn't see it past hurting Jessica. He didn't see the effect it would have on Hannah, which for Hannah, it adds to her reputation of, because with Justin, she was already being looked at as a class select, like, oh, like, you just start seeing this guy, and right away, you hook up with him. And then when the list, when she's added to the list, it gives guys a reason to look at her like she's an object. Because when they see her, they just see her ass, and nothing else.
And for Alex, I think it was more that she was collateral damage in, him kind of getting revenge on Jessica. And it was kind of funny because when they first introduced Alex, they talk about the male gaze. Yeah. And I think they kind of just do it, in passing, oh, haha, making a joke because he's staring at 2 girls. And they're like, oh, it's because you're prettier and stuff like that. But it's kind of funny that they bring that up because that is such, a big point in the whole show, and that he kind of starts to intensify that male gaze towards Hannah.
Yeah, like when Jeff and Clay were in the library and they're looking at, what is it? What's that girl's name? The one with the lips? Angie?
Yeah, I think so, Angie.
How she was there? How Clay was looking at her lips, after she appeared on the list, he couldn't stop looking at her lips. It's same thing with Hannah. It's everyone just they just saw her as the ass. I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like Alex is one of the few people in the show who expresses remorse for what he did.
And from the very beginning, well, a little bit from before she kills herself, you kind of see that here and there. He kind of sees what a shitty thing that was to do, because he kind of sees how guys react to the list, but more so after the tapes come out, immediately he's like, oh shit, I fucked up. It is my fault. And he kind of tries to bring everyone else to see you're not innocent. You're trying to deny it, but you guys are just as shitty as I am.
Yeah, he actually owns up to what he did. He's like, you know what, Hannah, I don't know, she could have lied about the other stuff, but at least for me, she didn't lie about what I did. I did this, and I'm sorry. I like Alex as a character.
At least with that, he's respectable,
Yeah, he owns up to it. It's a respectable thing to do. And I really enjoyed Hannah, Jessica, and Alex's friendship. And I was, so upset with both Alex and Jessica that they ruined it like that. Because, I mean,
they treated her as, a temporary friend.
Yeah, I've been in similar situations, so it sucks. being
Yeah.
the third wheel in your group of friends that you started. Like, that's kind of the story of my life. All right, number 4 is Tyler. He spies on Hannah and photographs her in her room. So he's like the peeping Tom or the peeping Tyler, and he like ruins her safe space, like her one place where she could be safe, which is at home. He ruins that for her.
And I kind of wanted to start with him, just kind of his character and just like who he is as a person. It's kind of hard to watch because, you know, he's kind of like that awkward kid who doesn't know how to talk to people. He's just like socially awkward. And so you kind of feel for him in that way. You can relate to him, just like how hard it is, like for him and like going through high school. Like, you know, you felt that way like at one point in time or another. The point where he takes it, where instead of just like sucking it up and mustering up the courage to talk to someone, like to start up a conversation, even if it wasn't with like a girl that he liked, he just kind of skipped that whole part and was like, you know what, I can't talk to these people. They're gonna laugh at me. So let me just go and take pictures of them secretively, but under the cover of, oh, I'm in your book, I have to take pictures of you.
Yeah.
To kind of like look at everybody, spying everybody, kind of be the fly on the wall.
And like I don't think that when he was taking pictures of Hannah, it was malicious.
Mm-hmm.
It was, you know, him being a horny teenage boy, and he's like, ooh, like I like this girl, she's pretty, let me spy on her, which is really creepy, but it's not like evil or malicious. It's just
It's kind of equivalent to like a teenage boy watching porn. You know,
Yeah.
they don't do it to like hurt the person who they're watching. They just do it because, you know, they want to look at boobs.
Yeah, which is like, I mean, I kind of feel for him because everyone on the else on the list kind of they took it as, oh, you're an awful person, which yeah, I mean, we did was awful, but like when they're breaking his window, it's like he didn't mean it maliciously.
Mm-hmm.
He made a mistake.
And kind of like the whole thing is that he also kind of admitted that he did a shitty thing too. Everyone else is acting like what he did was so much worse than what they did.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you're all equally to blame.
Yeah, like what he did is he invaded her privacy and he hurt her without, like, he hurt her unintentionally, but like he knew what he was doing, if that makes sense. But everyone else is like, no, they made a decision to be like, no, fuck you, Hannah.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that he did do that he is 100% to blame, and you know, like the main thing that he did was he leaked the photo of Hannah and Courtney.
Yeah.
And because Hannah rejected him, that was out of spite, and that he knew exactly what he was doing. So it's just like, you know what, you're shitty, I don't like you. Which brings me into number 5, Courtney, who pretends to befriend Hannah under the guise of like, oh, look at me, I'm nice and popular, I'm friends with everybody. And she immediately throws Hannah under the bus to protect herself with the photo. And she kind of uses Hannah's reputation against her because she knows that people automatically believe, like, oh yeah, that's Hannah. That's Hannah the slut.
And I think she was also kind of using Hannah's reputation because, I mean, obviously Courtney is a lesbian, but I think she was kind of using Hannah's reputation, like, oh, you know, I'm gonna be nice to everybody, but this girl, she's known as a slut, so maybe I can kind of do some experimenting, see, like, make sure I really am a lesbian, and instead of like actually trying it with a lesbian, because that'll just like give people proof that I actually am gay.
Yeah.
That she kind of was just like, oh, haha, see, it's because Hannah's a slut. We just made out.
It's her fault.
It's her fault, yeah, but I secretly kind of wanted to see if I kissed a girl and liked it. Also, when she dressed up as Katy Perry.
Yeah.
She kissed a girl and she did like it.
So she's just a big fat user.
And I think they villainized her way more in the show than they actually needed to, yeah, and then more than she was in the book.
Okay, one of the things I had a problem with, which this kind of goes into the whole Courtney thing, is that Clay brought Courtney to Hannah's grave to kind of like, you know, make her like be sorry and be like, look what you did, like because of you she's dead kind of thing. But in the book, Hannah isn't buried in that town. Her parents move away and they bury her in their hometown. I mean, we could talk about that a little bit later, but I kind of had a problem with that.
Yeah.
Anyways, number 6 is Marcus, who asks Hannah out for Valentine's Day, and he immediately assumes that she's going to be easy because of her reputation, and he kind of like sexually harasses her, and then humiliates her when he gets rejected.
And I think one of the worst parts about him, first of all, Courtney, him, and obviously Bryce, but Courtney and Bryce, or Courtney and Marcus especially are my two least favorite characters. Obviously, you don't really have a bunch of favorites, but at the very, very bottom of the bucket are these two. Courtney for obvious reasons, and then Marcus because when the whole Dollar Valentine thing came out and he got her name on his list and he called her, she was like, obviously this is a joke, you know, and he made her believe that he was actually serious about it. And I think that was a really shitty thing because he wasn't serious about it. And she kind of like knows that like instantly when he goes into Rosie's diner and with all of his friends and they sit at the table like in the back and they're like looking at him, and then he starts talking to her and then tries to convince her again that he actually is serious, and then she kind of believes him, and then he tries the whole thing like, oh, you're easy, let me try and do stuff with you here in a public space. And so I think it was just really cruel of him to kind of try to win her trust and then just like turning it right back around. I don't know, I guess reputation's sake, trying to seem like he's like a cool guy also, that he's like a stud, like he can
Like
get with her.
Like yeah, he brings his friends with him on his date. Like he has to have known that even if he didn't think it was like a real date, that bringing his friends would be super scummy. It's like almost like an audience. Like, hey, look at me, look how studly I am. I got a date with Hannah, the class slut.
And if he really did want like any kind of something from her, like if he wanted to like have sex with her or like whatever he wanted to do, he had to have known that bringing them would have like immediately brought that to her attention, like immediate shut him down.
Yeah.
Like, which is what happened. And so, and he was like all surprised and like, oh, blah, blah, blah. He's just a shitty person. He's selfish. He's spoiled.
And he does
entitled.
not feel any remorse at all. He does not think he did anything wrong. Like, you can just see it. Just it's just like a testament to all the actors in the show. They did a really great job because like you know who these characters are just like by the way they portrayed him with their acting. I mean, I'm sure the guy who plays Marcus is a really cool guy, but like you can see that he does not feel any remorse at all. He doesn't care.
Yeah. He's like, oh, I'm this great guy. I'm student body president. I'm going to be valedictorian when I graduate. So you can just kind of see the entitlement. And like you said, it's like a testament to his acting skills that like you really believe that they are that character and you really do like feel something like when they, with their actions, like you actually hate them.
Yeah. Number 7 is Zach. He goes up to Hannah after, Marcus humiliates her and tries to be like the nice guy, in quotes.
Really quick, I do think Zach really is a nice guy, but he's kind of petty and he's unintentionally cruel because of that. But in the show, you do kind of see that he's a sweet guy. He's like the sweet kind of dumb.
But like when she rejects him, it bruises his ego. So then that's why, out of spite, he goes and steals Hannah's notes, her encouragements, out of her paper bag in the class. That is just a bruised ego, and he just wanted to get back at her for humiliating him,
being petty
and stupid. And it's like I think deep down he does feel sorry that he acted so childish.
And even towards the end, he kind of shows that remorse that other characters have shown kind of throughout. Like he realizes how much of like a jerk he was and not being so defensive, like, oh, she's spreading all these lies about me. Like, no, he kind of like realizes as time goes on that no, we all kind of did bad things and I shouldn't have done this. And you can tell that he really feels bad about it, and you can kind of see that what kind of a guy he is by that. Like he is deep down he's a good guy, but he just made a stupid, mean decision. And especially like with the peer pressure in high school, it's kind of hard not to give in to that. And he was just kind of weak, I guess would be a good word, like sweet but weak.
He's almost like a fake nice guy, where it's like those guys who are all like, oh, but I'm a nice guy. Why don't girls like me?
Yeah.
Like, I'm so nice. It's like, but you're really not. Not all the time anyways. Like, you could be if you didn't have this entitled attitude about you. Like, hey, I'm a nice guy, so girls should like me. It's like, no, Clay's a nice guy. You're just kind of shitty because you pretend to be a nice guy.
You kind of grow to like him, though. More like when you see him at home and he's like taking care of his sister, helping with her homework, eating her Brussels sprouts when her mom isn't looking.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there is like that, like where you do see like he could be a really good guy.
Again, it comes back to the bad choices.
And bad choices, yeah.
Like that's what a lot of these characters are. There's some that are worse than others, but a lot of it comes back to making bad decisions.
And not thinking about how those can snowball into like, I guess, a greater effect and how that can affect someone else's life.
Yeah.
They're just focused on the immediate them.
Which I think is a big problem with teenagers, and like I'm not gonna be talking about like, oh, teenagers nowadays, this generation sucks. It's like, no, it's everybody at this age, no matter when they lived, at this age between I would say 14 and 20, everybody is so like single minded, like where they only care about what's happening right now to them and what immediately affects them. They don't think about the bigger picture, which is a huge problem, which I really do think the show addresses really well. Number 8 is Ryan, who publishes Hannah's poem without her consent, and which causes her innermost thoughts and emotions to no longer be private because it exploded on such a public forum that her deepest, darkest secrets are now exposed for everybody to witness. Even though it was anonymous, everyone knew it was her.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, he was kind of one of the characters that I forgot about. He didn't have a very big role in the show. I mean, in his episode, obviously, but throughout the rest of it, he was kind of just a background character. So
yeah,
even in the book too, he was a very minor character, and I kept forgetting like who he was whenever someone would say, "Oh, and Ryan said this." I'm like, who?
Yeah, like I honestly kept forgetting him to put him on the list because I kept forgetting he existed.
And I think, I don't know, I think for like in the story, I think he kind of wanted it that way too, because he did publish the magazine. In the book, it was called The Lost and Found because it was all little lost and found like poems or notes to students, and that was like his whole thing of like finding those little significant like details in everyday life and like the monotonous everyday life.
Yeah, which is a cool idea for a magazine, but the way he went about getting that piece for his like magazine was totally like shitty. Just just like ripping out of her notebook and stealing it.
But I think like he wanted to be kind of invisible, so that way he could go and like go around, take all the trash cans, or kind of listen into people's conversation. So I mean, I guess if you think about it in that way, he did a good job because you forgot about him. Like he really was like a fly on the wall that you didn't notice. So he could listen to all like people's conversation, which is again another invasion of privacy, just like of a different kind.
Yeah. Okay. Number 9 is Sherri, or in the book, Jenny. She is the cheerleader who crashes into a stop sign while she's giving Hannah a ride home, and then refuses to report it because she doesn't want to get in trouble. So by proxy, she causes the death of Jeff because she didn't report the stop sign being knocked over, driven down, however you want to phrase that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think Sherri is kind of like Zach, where like she is like a really nice person. She's like a good girl. She's a cheerleader. She's friendly. She's popular, but she made shitty decisions like all the rest of them. I think was more embarrassed about like her image and how that would change. Like, I guess a little bit like kind of Courtney too, like how that would change from her being like a good girl to being someone like reckless, because like of the night of the party she was being, I guess, semi-responsible because she did drink, but she didn't drink a lot, and she waited, I think she mentioned or something, she waited a couple hours before she actually drove to make sure she was fine, and she drove Hannah home, who was drunk at the party. So I mean, you do kind of see that she's a nice person who just made like a bad decision. Yes. And I mean, I understand like where she's coming from when you do something like that. You're scared, you don't want to deal with the consequences because it's going to be bad, but at the end of the day, it's one of those things like where something's bad is going to happen if you don't report it. And like we see that with the accident that happens afterwards and the death of Jeff.
Like she means well, she just went about everything the wrong way.
Yeah.
Like she again was like the whole like mindset of a teenager is like you don't think about the bigger picture. Mm-hmm. She was just focused on how it would affect her. Like she would get in trouble. She'd probably get a ticket. Her parents would have to pay for it. They'd be mad.
They'd get grounded.
Yeah. So she was very single-minded when it came to that, and you could definitely tell though that she did feel remorse. Did she know that it was because of her that Jeff died, or did she find out about that later?
She knew almost like immediately after it happened, just kind of also like Hannah did, how she found out that like something was reported at that corner, and she assumed that it was a stop sign, but the next day she heard all of the stories and like rumors and gossip about how he had died, and then they mentioned that it was at that corner. So I think she found out then, so like immediately, but indirectly.
Yeah. Okay, and then number 10 is Justin again. This time he's on the list because not of what he did, but of what he didn't do, which he didn't stop Bryce from raping Jessica, who was drunk and passed out. So he could have stopped it, but he didn't do anything. Again, probably like because like in the show, you definitely see Bryce like step up as like Justin's friend, like, oh yeah, you can stay with me, like you have a shitty home life.
Like, I understand that. I get that I'm here for you, whatever you need.
Which kind of like made it easier for Justin to kind of like look away and just like pretend he didn't see anything, just to like protect his bro, bro code. Justin, like he kind of pissed me off in the beginning, like yeah, you let everyone think that like you went further with Hannah than you really did, but when he let his girlfriend get raped, it was like, you know what, dude, like screw you, like how could you do that and then continuously deny it? Like, right. Oh yeah, it didn't happen. Like he should have done something.
Yeah, and I think it was like an internal struggle because he saw so many similarities between him and Bryce. You know, they're both jocks, they're both popular, and kind of the same kind of they date the same kind of people. And in a way, I think Justin was jealous of Bryce and his life and how his life was perfect, and he was like, why can't my life be like that? Why can't I have these great parents like Bryce does? Why can't I be smart like he is, like, So I think he was kind of, like you said before, how Bryce was there for him, like when his home life was shitty. So I think he was kind of battling with, I hate him. I know what he did to Jessica. He raped her. He's a terrible person. And this is just the kind of guy he is. Like, he does this to multiple girls. But also, he is a good friend to me. He takes care of me, like, when I need help. He's always there for, like, his friends. Like, he's a loyal friend. I guess you can give Bryce that, but he is also a scumbag.
Yeah, like with Justin's reasoning, it's like because Bryce does all those things for him that he gets kind of like a free pass. Like, yeah. Oh, you know what? I'll look the other way. But it's like, no.
It's like, did he really do it though? I mean, see all these nice things he's doing. Is he really a bad guy? He's a good guy. He's helping me. He's taking care of me. He's taking me in. Did he really do that, or was that just maybe he didn't do that?
Yeah, and it's like just because he might have been a good friend to you doesn't cancel out the horrible thing that he did to Jessica.
And to other girls.
And too. Other girls, which we'll talk about that later. Number 11 is Clay, which he's on the list, not because he did anything to Hannah, but because he loved her, but didn't tell her when she definitely needed that to know that somebody cared. So at least for on Hannah's side, he's on the list because she felt she owed him an explanation.
And I think because he's part of the story that she needed to tell, so in doing so, I don't think she thought it would have been fair to Clay to have him be such a big part in the story and not also simultaneously give him that explanation that she couldn't give to him at that time.
Yeah, like at the party, she pushed him away and told him to leave. She told him to leave, and he accepted her wishes and left. When in reality, he shouldn't have left. He should have stayed and
made her talk to him.
Like everybody else in the show, they did everything that Hannah didn't want. And the one person who did exactly what she wanted was the one who shouldn't have. And that like breaks my heart. It's like he's like a genuinely nice guy, and he wanted to do right by her, and he was just so shy and nervous and scared to love her. And it just, like, breaks my heart that that's the reason why he's on the list.
And I think that when she told him, like, because she asked him to leave first, and then she, like, explicitly told him to leave, that he did it just, like, out of second nature, just because he is, like, that good of a guy, because he didn't want to, like, force himself on her in any way, not just, like, physically or, like, sexually, but, like, he didn't want to force her to, like, talk to him if she really didn't want to, so he just kind of was like, okay, I'm going to respect your wishes. And at that point in time for her, she was screaming for someone to help her, for someone to, like, notice that she was at such a low point in her life.
Like, you can see that Clay notices these things. Like, he knows it a little bit, but he just, like,
he's trying to respect her wishes.
Respect her space.
Her privacy.
It just hurts so much, because it's like, if he had just told her, like, hey, I like you, or like even just as a friend, like a platonic friend.
Just
hey, I see you're hurting. Let me help you. It could have totally changed things for her. She just needed to know that one person cared about her.
And it broke my heart in his episode where he is listening to the tape in Tony's car, and he pulls over because he's like physically getting ill because of everything that he's hearing happen on the tapes, and he kind of goes through an alternate universe scenario of like what he could have done and how he could have potentially saved her, how it could have like changed something for her, like given her that like extra bit of hope that she needed to like keep carrying on. And then she also in his tape, I think she like kind of explains like how she could see that future like at the moment, like when she kissed him and stuff like that. And they go through like the montage of like them walking down like a school hallway and then just like laughing and then him meeting her mom. And it was just so heartbreaking because you know that that could have happened with them if like if only he had just done something more, if only she had just let him, you know.
Yeah,
it was
like,
just so hard to watch that episode.
Like they're both like equal parts in that whole thing with how they I guess they both were afraid to love each other.
Mm-hmm.
And like that could have really saved her if she had allowed herself to open up, which I understand why she was so closed off with everybody because of all the shit that she went through. But if she had just opened herself up a little bit and let him in,
and she knew he was different.
Yeah, and if he had just a little bit more courage and would have talked to her, which I honestly don't even know how far that he would have gotten, like at least in the show, with talking to Hannah if it wasn't for Jeff. So it's like I see these things around all the time, but like Hannah and Jeff deserve better.
Which also, by the way, what a great addition to the show by adding Jeff. Like that was such a good thing because he wasn't in the book at all.
No.
I mean, you knew that like someone had died during that car crash, but to give him actually like a name and a face and a purpose in the show was so amazing. And especially that he was Clay's like biggest advocate, you know? He was like you're such an amazing guy. Like you're smart, you're funny, like you have this girl who like likes you and I know you like her, like you just need to go for it, like you got this, dude, you know.
He was kind of like Clay's guardian angel.
And then like you said, he deserved better, which he really did, and it was just heartbreaking, but I think it was also necessary for the whole like development of the story that he needed to die. But it was hard to watch.
Yeah. All right, so number 12. Probably gonna be the most intense one we talk about. Motherfucking Bryce.
Motherfucking Bryce.
This
what a
guy,
piece of shit.
He's worse than a piece of shit. He's the flies that land on the piece of shit.
He's like the flies shit that land on the piece of shit.
He is just, ugh. Okay, so obviously we know what goes on with him. First, he grabs Hannah's ass in the liquor store because of Alex's list.
Sexual assault, not only with her, multiple girls.
Yeah.
And then
he rapes Jessica, who is drunk, and totally doesn't even feel bad about it. And then he rapes Hannah in the hot tub after she repeatedly tells him to stop.
And you kind of get a sense that he either sexually assaulted and or raped Sherri just by her reaction in an earlier episode where it's a Oh My Dollar Valentine and she sees a list and she's like, no, like trust me, no. Right. And she like,
because even Kat was like, trust me, girl,
so many
stay
people
away from him.
Were like, no, like because in the whole like lead up to each of like those little moments, you know, they were laughing, they were joking around, they were like bubbly, and then as soon as like the mention of Bryce, it was dead serious. It was like, no, like seriously, this is not a guy you want to mess with. So I mean, you can just kind of tell from the beginning that he's just a shitty person, and then all those
like, okay, when Clay goes up to him and tries to, and gets the confession, and he's, you know, secretly recording him, and he's like keeps asking her like did you rape Hannah? And like this entitled piece of shit is like, well, if you want to call it that, like, you know, all girls want it. It's like, I mean, look at me.
If
like,
that's rape, then all girls want to be raped. What an arrogant asshole piece of shit, motherfucker. Sorry.
Which, as much as I hate him, I think this is really important that to be expressed in a television show, considering everything that's going on, with college campuses all over the country, like, what's his name, Brock Turner. It's like people like that. It's like people need to see what kind of a person like says these things and what they do, and it's like you need to know. They need you to be held responsible. Mm-hmm. Which I get why Bryce never got the tapes. He's supposed to, but and actually in the book he wasn't supposed to because Hannah knew that the tapes would stop with him.
Yeah.
But I don't even think that if he got the tapes he would even care.
No, he'd probably just be like, yeah, okay, whatever. And then but I don't think he would have passed them on. He kind of would have just been like, whatever, this is, ooh, sorry, I burped. This is crap. And
she's a liar.
Yeah, she's a liar, and just tossed them aside and forgotten about them. But like you said, with the whole thing going on in today's like social climate, just the whole thing about like rape culture in general. Like, yes, you know about like those skeevy guys, you know, kind of they're like a dark creature. They lurk in like dark alleyways and like they do drugs, that kind of stuff. But you don't get the whole picture of like rapists. They can be like they can be a spouse, they can be a boyfriend, they can be the clean cut guy who's captain of the football team, he's class president, he's rich, he has all these amazing parties and friends. Like, you don't see that other side of it. And so this show really, I think, highlighted like that rape isn't like exclusive to one type of person, or like a rapist isn't like one type of person. It can be the smiling face you see down the hallway, you know?
Because, like, if you saw Bryce walking down the hallway, you didn't know anything about him, you'd be like, oh, you know, jock. But he seems pretty nice.
Yeah, you know, he might be a jerk, kind of like a player, like he just uses girls. But, you know, he's probably just like still a nice guy, at least a nice friend. But
the show does a really good job of expressing that, you know, anybody can be a rapist. And, like, it's so important that people communicate. Because if...
that they're open to listening to someone, like, when they say, like, I've been either sexually assaulted or I've been raped, to, like, listen to them and believe them, even if it is about this guy who you know is, like, a clean-cut guy.
Yeah, like, with Kat and Sherri, like, they don't explicitly say if anything happened with them, with Bryce, but if they did, they should have told somebody. Because, like, that's the big problem with rape, is that people are afraid to say something. And then I think that's why Jessica had such, like, a strong reaction to it. She wanted Justin to be like, no, say it. Like, what did he do? Because nobody wanted to talk about it. And she was hurting, and nobody wanted to admit it.
And I don't think she fully understood why she was hurting, too, because I think she might have had some memory of, like, what happened, but she didn't fully understand it. She didn't know what was happening. So she was, you can see, like, her internal and external struggle. Like, she kind of goes through, like, an alcoholic, like, phase, and she's, like, screaming at, like, Justin, like, tell me, like, why are you acting this way? Why are you so affected, like, when I go and hang out with Bryce? And because she knows that, like, deep down she knows that something happened, but she also is kind of hurt by, like, what Hannah had said about her. So she's like, no, she's a liar. She's lied about me. She's lying about this too. Like, this didn't really happen to me. It's like the whole denial thing. Just that, like, rape victims in general go through. I think that's, like, kind of what she was going through, and she just didn't want to believe it, or she wanted to force that reaction out of someone to, like, tell her the truth. Bryce is a piece of shit.
Bryce is a piece of shit.
Goddamn.
I mean, the actor, again, I know
probably
you're
a good guy.
Probably a great guy. But, I mean, props for doing such a great job of portraying this piece of shit. And I really hope you don't get typecasted after this.
And I really hope you're not this kind of person.
Yes. Alright, so number 13 and the final reason is Mr. Porter. And he's on this list because Hannah went up to Mr. Porter and tried to talk to him about what she was going through. And he wasn't picking up on the fact that she was suicidal and that she was hurting. Like, he tried to talk to her about it, but he didn't put forth the extra effort to actually go after her. And
he just dismissed it as, oh, you know, teenage angst. They'll get over it.
And I believe he said to her, he told her that she needs to move on and get over it. Because, I mean, I'm sure he was thinking, you know, just talking about boys. But it's like, no.
There's a deeper issue here. And it's a bigger picture thing rather than just, like, a few small instances. It's, like, the way that the whole school was seeing her and treating her. And the way that she started believing herself. You know, it was like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, she was trying to, like, ask for help because so many people had been saying these things about her, and finally she kind of broke down and was like, yeah, I did these things, especially after Bryce. Like, I did these things that people are saying, maybe I am this person, maybe I do deserve whatever is coming. Yeah. And so I think she was trying to talk to him about that, and like I said, he was like, he just dismissed it. He didn't think it was that big of a deal, or even if he did, as a professional, knowing that a student, especially like a student, was raped, he has an obligation to report that, and he did nothing. And then afterwards, when she did commit suicide, he tried to cover his ass and was like, no, I didn't talk to her. Oh, maybe last year. Yeah, you're right. I think I did talk to her, but you know, it was about colleges. It wasn't anything big. I had no idea. I didn't know.
Yeah, and he was kind of like Hannah's last line of defense. Like, he was her last, like, hope. It was her cry for help. She knew that she couldn't, give up without a fight, and this is like her fighting, trying to talk to an adult, which was what everyone's always talking about in schools. Like, oh, if you're struggling, talk to a teacher, talk to a counselor. That's what we're here for. But he did nothing.
Mm-hmm.
He just kind of blew her off. Like, I don't know if it was just because he was busy or if he didn't care. Or I'm sure he cared. He just didn't consider for a moment that what she was going through would actually be harmful to her.
Yeah.
It was so much more than just like, oh, boy troubles. Like, it was his responsibility as a teacher and as a counselor to talk to her parents. If she didn't want to talk to him, he needed to inform her parents and be like, listen, Hannah came to me. Seems like she's struggling with something. You need to talk to her.
And it was his legal obligation to say something. Mm-hmm. If not to the police because he didn't have her permission, he still needed to say something to her parents because stuff like that can't go unreported. Like, if you know about something like that, you have a duty to report it. And he's not a lawyer with the client. He's not a doctor with his patient. He does not have any kind of legal thing saying, like, oh, no, there's confidentiality in it. He's a school counselor. If he knows something illegal is going on, he has to report it, and he didn't. And I think it also kind of goes down to the mentality of, like, rape culture and, like, victim blaming, because he did kind of victim blame Hannah. He's like, did you say something or do something that would have, like, caused this? But just, like, the whole different mentality of how it must have been something that she did to, like, egg him on or something, so it must have been, like,
it was like her fault.
Yeah.
Like, whatever happened to her, like, she brought it on herself. Like, even if he didn't explicitly say that, it was kind of like, you can see that that's what he was thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Which is like, dude, come on.
Or, like, the whole not believing a victim, like, when they come out, like, oh, but was it really? Did you say no? And he even asked her that, did you say no? She's like, well, no, but I still didn't want it. Like, because there's, like, the whole thing about, like, the issue with consent, too, like, how important that is. I don't think that he fully, like, thought that was important because she didn't physically push him. I mean, she did in the show, but she didn't, like, try multiple times, like, keep pushing him away. She didn't say no. So he was like, well, then is that really rape? Yeah. Is it really, though? Is kind of where he was at, and it was just such a horrible thing.
Yeah, and then with him being the last person to get the tapes, I really hope he does the right thing.
And in the show, you don't know if he really listens to all the tape or just his, and then you don't know what he's going to do with it.
We can only hope. Alright, so I just realized how long this episode is getting, so we're going to stop it right there for now, and we will do a second episode of 13 Reasons Why, because we have a lot to talk about still, and I really hope you're enjoying our discussion. Feel free to chime in the comments or on Twitter. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We will continue the discussion in the next episode. Reach out to us on Twitter. We'll have links in the description as well as Dyanna's Twitter, so you can talk to her too as well.
Yeah, check out my Twitter. I'm hilarious, and I like talking to people. Not face to face, but online is cool.
Yeah. Online, we're much more hilarious than in person.
I think both, but especially more online because, we have access to gifts and stuff.
But yeah, thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time, or something like that.